The Rebel Capitalist Show.
If you were dictator of Australia
Yeah.
for 2 or 3 years, you know, give it Mr. Burns. We'll give you a Smithers as well as an assistant. But if you're the evil Mr. Burns dictator, or maybe a benevolent Mr. Burns dictator of Australia, what on earth do you do?
Okay, so the first thing is, what people are missing is the growth engine in the economy is small business. And small business hasn't got a hope in hell at the moment. Right? It's harder to get finance support from the banks than ever before. There's very little support for innovation. So I would be changing the rules of the game in terms of lending. I would make it less easy to get a mortgage. I'd make it much easier for credit to flow to small business. And I think there will be some support programs because we need an innovation sector in Australia. We're too narrow, right? That's the first point. The second is that there would need to be much more transparency with regard to people when they actually go get a loan as to what may happen if rates would rise, because people don't think this through, right? So people actually don't think about what happens if I lose my job or what happens if interest rates go up. And so people get themselves into this debt trap, which doesn't spring on day one, but it springs subsequently, right? The third one is I look at migration. So basically our quantitative easing program over the last decade plus was bring more people in. And that basically led to a significant population rise, but also significant congestion and significant issues with regard to where people are going to live and what they can afford to buy, all those things. So we haven't got the infrastructure build to match the migration. So I think we have to actually deal with migration in the short term and be a bit more smart about that, but then actually invest in the infrastructure that we really need to be able to bring our cities back to life and to, you know, for the services that we need as a population. And I think the final sort of leg of the stool, as it were, is that we've got the situation where we have not woken up, and you know this is going to be unpopular for a lot of people who watch your channel, but we haven't woken up to the real challenges of climate change and all of those things, and the need to adapt to a new world. And I think there is huge opportunity for countries that really start taking those leading steps rather than we're a laggard, right? So we're one of the highest carbon producers per capita on the planet. So that will be another lever that I would be thinking about, because that will innovation, a new way of thinking. So for example, there's no interest in electric cars here in Australia. There's nobody thinking about building charging port infrastructure to be able to actually support electric cars. So we're just so far from where we could be. So if you put all those things together, right, you could end up with a very different story. But over the top of it, there needs to be a new vision thing, right? A new narrative for Australia, because what we've done is we've replayed the tape from the last 4 to 5 decades and just done the same again, which is, okay, inflate house prices, lend more debt, ship out more resources overseas, and
you're just doubling down, double down.
Well, just doing the same again. But of course, you know, just doing the same again and expecting a different result is a definition of idiocy, right? There needs to be a new vision, which is basically, so what is Australia going to be in a decade or two, right? What are the fundamental things we want for our community and for the economy, right? There's no vision at all. It's all very tactical, political spin. It's all just, well, you know, we'll get through to the next election. So there needs to be a vision thing over the top, because Australia is hugely well placed. Give you an example. We have supplies of rare earths, you know, rare earth metals here in Australia. At the moment, what we do is you dig them up, ship them overseas. Somebody else makes the batteries, for example, all right? And then we import the batteries and pay a huge amount for them, right? Well, why don't we build a production facility onshore in Australia to build batteries, right? We got the end-to-end possibility to do that, right?
Yeah, but I think even a more specific question would be, why are entrepreneurs or capitalists not doing that right now?
Yep.
And then kind of reverse engineer it from there, because I would guess it's because of the uncertainty. It might be because of taxes. It might be because of regulations. I know if it was in the United States, that's definitely what the problem would be. You just don't know what the rules are going to be tomorrow because the government keeps moving the goalposts. So it's very hard to invest, call it $2 billion on a structure that you can't move ever. And when you don't know what it's going to look like, not just 20 years from now, but 20 days from now.
Well, I agree. The uncertainty is strong, but I also think that people are going for the easy money, right? So it's much cheaper just to invest in a mine and then just ship the stuff overseas and have done with it, right? So unfortunately, we've got some very simplistic thinking going on at the moment, and yet there is some joined up thinking needed. So all I'm saying is it's time for a bit of a more joined up conversation about the economy and where we want it to go and what we want it to be and what we want society to be. And none of that happens here, right? So we've got this very, very sort of tactical approach.